So I did what any committed person would do, and I stalked a guy on the internet. Called him, said, hey, my name's Hayden. I see on the internet, looks like you make a lot of money. I want to do that too. Is there a chance I could take you out to coffee, buy you lunch, just get some of your time? He said, I don't drink coffee. I'm not eating lunch today because I'm on my way to a property and I'm kind of busy with this project. So if you want to drive over there and meet me there, come on. I said, text me the address. Ran to get in my car, immediate action, right? Don't worry about 10 steps down the road. Just worry about what can you do today.
What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Johnny Catani, and I am joined today by Hayden Crabtree. Hayden is a commercial real estate investor, the founder of the software My Property Stats, and is the author of the best-selling Skip the Flip, The Secrets the 1% Know About Real Estate Investing. When he was in college, he realized the traditional route was not for him and bought his first investment property at 21 years old. When taking the real estate investment course, he owned more investment property than the professor. Realizing a disconnect between what is taught in school and what actually occurs in the real world, Hayden set out to spread his knowledge of how the real estate industry works and how anyone can make and multiply money while also eliminating their tax bill in real estate. Hayden, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Johnny. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Looking forward to today's conversation. We've got another fellow millennial on the other end, which is always nice to see the millennials getting the proverbial real estate.
Easy, man. I'm not a millennial. I'm a Gen Z. First year, 1996, my friend. I just made the cutoff, so I'll have to wish you millennials the best.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's good to see the young folk getting the proverbial bag in real estate and not following the traditional path, which, you know, we kind of alluded here. You've got an awesome story. Give us, you know, kind of the quick rundown of how it all went and what led you to where you're at now.
For sure, man. You know, whenever I was growing up, I just had this desire, you know, as crazy as it sounds, just to be like, hey, I never want to worry about money. I want to be somebody who, you know, is not somebody who worries about money. I want to be wealthy. And I always thought growing up, you know, that was going to be some kind of entrepreneur, some kind of business owner. Did not really know what that was going to be. That was just my aspirations, you know. And I got into college. I went to the University of Georgia. I live in Atlanta. And a mentor, I did this entrepreneurship program, and a mentor of mine inside of that program recommended I read this book. Said it was a really good one called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I think a couple people might have heard of that one before. But anyways, man, that one just really opened my eyes. I mean, I have a great family, but, you know, nobody in my family is entrepreneurs or real estate investors. And this idea, this concept of real estate investing had never occurred to me until I read that book. And it was like a ton of bricks. Like, you need to figure this out as quick as possible because this sounds too good to be true. This whole real estate investing thing. And so that's exactly what I did, man. I read that book. I was, I was 17, 18, somewhere in there years old, front part of college. And I essentially just said, screw class, you know, I'm going to go try and learn how to be a real estate investor while I have this opportunity because I'm living dirt cheap. I'm on a full ride scholarship to UGA just for academics. I'm going to try to figure out if I can be this, quote, financially free, quote, get out of the rat race before I graduate college. And so what I did is what any person would do. I went to Google. And when I got to Google, I typed in real estate investing, Athens, Georgia, which is where UGA is. And of course, Bigger Pockets is the first thing to pop up. I get in one of their forums, and at that point, I'm just reading these stories about people talking about real estate. And one guy in particular is talking about, you know, how he had wholesaled 8 duplexes, made a couple $100,000, went on sometime later to buy those back from the person he wholesaled them to, renovate them, and then refinance them to go on to own this property with no money down that cash flowed, and he got paid a wholesale fee. And I was just like, what language is this? Why has nobody ever told me about this? I've been cheated. And I'm going to find this guy. So I did what any committed person would do, and I stalked the guy on the internet. And I ended up finding his phone number and just gave him a call, you know, cold call. I got really lucky, man, because this is the first attempt I had at trying to find a mentor. And I'll never forget what the guy said. I called him. He said, hey, you know, my name's Hayden. I see on the internet, looks like you make a lot of money. I want to do that too. Is there a chance I could take you out to coffee, buy you lunch, just get some of your time? He said, I don't drink coffee. I'm not eating lunch today because I'm on my way to a property and I'm kind of busy with this project. So if you want to drive over there and meet me there, come on. I said, text me the address.
Sweet.
Ran to get in my car, immediate action, right? Which is a big like story and theme of mine. It's just immediate action. Don't worry about, don't worry about 10 steps down the road. Just worry about what can you do today. And anyways, I went out there, had no idea what to say to this guy. Of course I'd seen real estate my whole life, but never looked at it through the lens of an investor. Hadn't done anything in business school. I had no value other than I've got time, I want to learn, and I'm willing to hustle, And essentially at that point, I just looked at the guy and I said, hey man, I'll work for you for free because I really want to learn this. I don't care what it takes to get to the place, but I got to get to the place before I graduate college, right? And so I ended up working for my first real estate mentor for free for over a year. And that was skipping class, driving to it. He worked out of his house as a real estate investor would. And, at the time, I think he had like close to 100 houses, units, duplexes, starting to get into multifamily. We were focused. That's where I cut my teeth, learning the ins and outs of real estate investing. And that's how I got my start, man. And then we transitioned over in that process, really just kind of stumbled into self-storage as an asset class. And whenever I got into my first self-storage deal, it was just like, holy cow. Like, this is all the ups, all the pros, none of the cons, right? Why are we doing this? Let's stop doing this. Let's do nothing but self-storage. Let's stop. And when I say this, for those people listening and not watching, this is the single-family houses, the multifamily, the duplexes. Quit giving energy and attention to that. Self-storage is a game changer inside. Any real estate is better than no real estate, in my opinion. Houses are better than stocks. They're better than bonds. They're better than ETFs. They're better than 401ks, in my opinion, right? That's just my opinion. But inside the real estate investment, self-storage, takes the cake, so to say. So we got started in that and ended up, when I was still in college, helped him, went from working for free to working for equity and deals by raising money, finding deals, getting contracts, reached financial freedom before I graduated college, which was awesome. And then, we went on to buy about 500,000 square feet of self-storage, about 8 figures of self-storage. And that is how I kind of cut my teeth in the real estate world.
Nice. Wow. What an incredible story. That's so awesome. Love to see that. Immediate action, man. That is, it's a lost art these days. It's amazing how you can tell someone how to do something and they just won't go do it, which is why we're not taught about these amazing things, because like you, my parents weren't entrepreneurs and they still are like, what the heck are you doing? Self-storage, like, why would you buy something out of state? How are you going to manage it? I'm like, all right, well, clearly. Yeah. Do you still have most of that portfolio? Have you packaged it, sold some off, kind of moving up the scale? What?
Yeah, we got to our first portfolio and had assembled, the good thing about immediate action is that you get things done. The bad thing is that, you learn some lessons the hard way, which
not for this business.
Yeah. Which is, by the way, you want to learn those lessons. So you've got to suck before you can be good, so just accept it. So anyways, we realized we sucked, and at that point in time we said, hey, we've learned a lot. What would it look like to kind of get rid of those? We didn't necessarily capitalize them. We didn't know what we were doing. We're a little bit behind in the various sectors of it. What would happen if we just sold that thing? And we sold almost all of it, kept a couple of key assets, and started going at it again. So we sold a lot of that. I own more value-wise, but we had a lot of small properties. Like the first property bought was like 130 grand, 60 units, so really tiny self-storage asset. Most of the deals we try to do today are, a couple million plus. So, so sold a lot of those, have restarted, taken our lessons, kind of gotten back to the grind on it.
That's awesome. I love it. And what are some of those key lessons you kind of learned along the way?
The key lessons, inside of self-storage in particular, about raising capital, about partnerships. There's so many various lessons, because I told you before we started this interview, but we hadn't said on the show, is I started as a broke college kid, right? I had like 1,000, definitely less than 2,000. I forget how much, but I had somewhere between 1,000 and maybe $1,500 in my bank account. No job. I did not have money to go out there and put money into deals. So on the way up of buying those assets and raising money, I came up with, kind of the craziest, set of capital raising, mechanisms available between debt structures with a certain percent upside on the back and monthly payments and, various ways of equity splits and waterfalls on the front end, just because, you go, hey, that makes sense. And then you get to the later part of the business, kind of cycle and you go, wait a second, that didn't make that much sense. So, some of the various lessons are, make sure that whenever you look at an investor, you guys are long-term aligned. Make sure that, you look at somebody who's going to invest money with you as a marriage, not somebody that you're like, I'll take any money just to get a deal done, right? You always want to make sure that there are certain controls in place, that you guys are aligned, and you have those hard conversations on the front end. Like, hey, we think this is what we're going to do with this property, but if the income doesn't increase like we think we're going to, there are going to be capital calls, and are you willing to make a capital call if that does not happen? Because that's a part of risk of this deal in particular. On the front end, somebody who's had some success, you're just like, definitely we can raise that income on that property. You buy property, I was buying a lot of self-storage in Athens, and then you go to different markets out of state that have different complexities within the market, so to say, different levels of income. Athens was a very unique location for self-storage. I won't say very unique because there's a lot of these, but college towns function differently as a self-storage supplier than most markets do, because you have a huge influx of demand, on July 25th, right before the semester, when people get kicked out of their leases, and so you'd see these deals just lease up quickly, and you say, wait a second, I can go do this anywhere, right? Look how fast this thing leased up. And you go to a town that doesn't have college, and you're like, where are all the customers, And then the question is, how do I go get customers, consistently and reliably? How do we scale labor, right? Because a lot of self-storage facilities, don't need a full-time manager sitting there at the property full-time. So how do I build a call center? And how do you deal with the intricacies of building systems around call center reps to handymen that we'll call site technicians who work on properties? So just a lot about operations, a lot about the business side, capital raising side. And that was my first business. So just learning a bunch of general business lessons, that aren't specific necessarily to real estate. They're just business lessons, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because you get into this and you realize that, of course, there are obviously people who are far more intelligent than I am. But you just realize that they all started somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, they didn't know nearly as much as they know now. Just like, in 5 years, we're going to know way more than we know now. And you realize that really anyone can do this. Mm-hmm. Like if I could do it, for sure anyone can. For you starting so young, did you ever have a mindset challenge? Like imposter syndrome, or like, what the heck am I even doing here? I'm too young for this. Or were you just so young and naive, you kind of like skipped that and now you're obviously successful, so you don't necessarily battle it as much, or kind of talk about some of that stuff?
Yeah, definitely the mindset as a young person is tough. I can remember the first time that I offered somebody $1 million, for a property, and I had, less than $5,000 in my. It's like how I am trying to make this promise. How am I actually going to be able to fulfill that promise? But what I've realized is that like if you set a goal and you're serious about it, like for me, that driving factor that kind of helped me overcome all of that was I want to reach financial freedom before I graduate college, because I will consider myself a failure if I have to go get a job at the end of my college career. That for me will be a fail. I don't care what my GPA is. I care about not failing my own test, right? And so yeah, there's certainly moments where you're like, what in the world am I getting myself into? What are the commitments that I'm making? Am I actually going to fulfill and obligate, these agreements that I'm making with people? But what I've actually found, Johnny, is that a lot of my deals, I won those deals because the person on the other side of that says, you remind me of myself. And I think that being young inside of the real estate investing world can actually be an advantage, because there's a plethora of 50-year-old people with fancy logos and Mercedes that are making full price offers. And if you're the 22-year-old that is just saying, please, sir, I'd love to buy this property. I just really want this deal so bad, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes, and I can't offer you the highest amount of money, and I'm asking you to be creative and work with me here. I found a lot of people, especially the sellers who are looking to exit and retire, not the guys who are working at the big companies and, we're trying to maximize our IRR for our investors, but the mom and pops who own properties, who care about that next generation, who care about helping, other people. If you can create a win-win deal with them being young and showing up professionally, like, yeah, I am 22, but I showed up in the nicest set of clothes that I have. I've done what I've told you I'm going to do. I showed up early. I told you I was going to get you an offer. I got you an offer, and, I think it goes a long way, So definitely it's more of an internal fear of, I'm not prepared for this. You're never going to be prepared for it, right? Because there are 45, 50, 60-year-old people who come to me and ask me for advice every single day. And age really has nothing to do with it. It's about taking those first steps, whether you're 18 or whether you're 80. It's going to be uncomfortable the first time that you do it. So go ahead and get it over with. And then in 5 years from today, you can be awesome. So start being awesome.
I love that. That's such great insight, such great advice, because, I think so many people are so afraid of failure that they just don't even start. For me, I was actually stoked my first failed deal, because I was like, oh, cool. That means I'm doing it right. I'm trying and putting myself out there and taking action. And it's like, okay, it went wrong. I lost money. I learned a lesson, but now I know now what to do. But that means that, as Grant Cardone says, as long as you continue to keep having new problems, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. Without a doubt.
I just think with social media and stuff, you see so much success and it's kind of masked, that, these people had to have failure and get things wrong and do things incorrectly to get to where they're at. So, get out there and try it and do it.
And it's easy to compare yourself to people on social media. I mean, if you look at, my social media, I mean, I've been trying to level it up, but I'm a person, I wake up every day, some days I'm excited to go to work. Some days I got stuff I don't want to deal with. The people that you look at that are successful, they're people just like you that started from somewhere. They're nothing. They may try to look special. They may try and, show you that they're better than you. We're all just people. We all have the same skills. And the super cool thing about real estate is that it's not complex. Real estate truly is probably the simplest investment that I can think of, right? We're buying this thing for this amount of money. Make sure it pays you at the end of every month, enough, and it's going to go up in value over the long term. That's sorry, go ahead. That's the basis of it. Don't be scared of real estate. People, especially you probably got some realtors or something that listen to you. They want to tell you, oh, you need a realtor because this can get really complicated, and you don't want to make one of these costly mistakes and errors. Guys, it's not that hard. It really is not that hard. I'm not a smart dude. Most of the people in real estate I know are not smart dudes. They're action takers, right? People are just willing to be like, yeah, I'll buy that building. I mean, I think it's a good price, but we'll find out over the long run, and I'm sure over the long run that I'll be fine. As long as it pays you, as long as you don't get short-term debt, you'll crush it in real estate over the long term.
Absolutely. And one thing I love so much about it is you literally have an Excel spreadsheet that tells you why you're paying this price, and it's backed up by numbers, right? You can do all the research on the stock you want, value, add, blah, blah, blah. And then some analyst decides that Apple didn't sell enough iPhones, and so it drops for the day.
Yeah.
Despite all your research, right? It's you don't have that in real estate. You have that more assurity. And sure, there's, factors that can play in and change, but,
It's not to say there's not cycles, but that's why my book, Skip the Flip, I think is, a good theory for most people going in. I think one of the worst mistakes people could make on the front end of their career is going into a flip at the wrong time in the market, which I don't have a crystal ball. It certainly seems like we've been on the upswing of a market for a long time. I don't know. I'm sure it will level out or, depending on when this gets aired, go down to some degree, some areas worse than others. But if you're buying for cash flow, if you're buying for long-term investment value, you will not lose. I mean, I can't legally back that up. Don't sue me, but it is very.
We're not financial advisors.
Yeah, we're not financial advisors. I'm just a dumb real estate investor. But by the way, as long as it cash flows, as long as you plan on holding it for a long time, and a long doesn't have to be 50 years, but as long as you don't plan on getting rid of it in 2 to 3 years, and it cash flows, and you have good debt on it, then yeah, I mean, do it. Whether that's storage units, whether it's rental houses, whether it's whatever, just get in the game, learn the game, and then all the mystery will be taken away, and you'll just see so clearly.
Absolutely, I love that. One thing I want to touch on is you have My Property Stats, which I did a little research on. You developed, or at least came up with the idea. Kind of talk about it. It's awesome software, but yeah, give us the overview there.
Yeah, man. So plays into our story from earlier. Whenever we were selling that first portfolio we built, and I had a variety of different investors. I mean, we had 13 properties in 5 different states with 7 different investors. And whenever I went to go sell that, we sold it as a portfolio to maximize value. Well, if you ever sell anything as a portfolio in the real estate world, what you'll find is that some people will come in, they'll say, I'll give you X dollars for all of these properties, and that's Y for this property, Z for this property, it's $1 million for this property, $2 million for this property, $500,000 for this property. And then the next person will come in. They'll say, I'll give you this amount of money. And they'll say, I'll give you $750,000 for this property, 2.5. And there's just like this crazy variation of what people value the different properties at. And then you also have people who come in and go, I just want the properties in Georgia. I don't want your South Carolina and Florida properties, right? And so I was the guy who had kind of put it all together, archetyped these deals. And it was my job, whenever we got all these different offers, to go back to the investors and to say, here's the money you'll get if we accept this offer. Here's the money you'll get. Here's the best offer for this person. Here's the best offer for this person. And it was just an absolute nightmare. I mean, it took me forever. I had to custom build spreadsheets. I had to, and I hate that. Like, that's the reason I got into real estate, so I didn't have to stare at a computer all day, And anyways, so I just kind of realized, like, why is there not a platform, that real estate investors, like stock investors, crypto investors, can log into a phone on their app and see exactly what their assets are worth. They can see exactly how much money they've made. They can see all these awesome statistics on their properties. Why is that not a thing for real estate investors? I mean, it's one of the most popular. It's becoming more and more popular, but one of the biggest wealth creators, if not the biggest wealth creator in the world. Why is there no way to track how your investments are doing? And as I looked around, there are these things, but they're $100,000 a year, and they're for Wall Street private equity firms. And they're willing to pay that. But I said, the guy who owns, 5 houses or 2 storage facilities, he's not going to pay $100,000 a year to have that. That's ridiculous. So my vision and mission of My Property Stats is, how do I allow if you own 1 rental property, if you own 3 rental properties, if you own 15 rental properties, how do I allow real estate investors to track the finances and performance of their real estate investments? We're not property management software. You can't log in and see, hey, who's in unit A? Are they behind on their rent, etc.? But you can log in. You can see, okay, on my property at 123 Main Street, in the life cycle of this deal, here's my IRR. Here's my return on equity. Here's how this would compare to a different property that I'm analyzing, and here's the long-term impact it would have on my portfolio. What My Property Stats will also do is it'll take your data from your properties you have in there, and it'll forecast the future for you. So if you want to sit down, you want to say, hey, what's my expected cash flow in my real estate portfolio in 3 years from today? Boom, My Property Stats will serve that up to you in 10 seconds, right? Or if you want to say, hey, I've got an offer on these 2, I've got 5 properties, I've got an offer on these 2. What would my portfolio look like if I pulled these 2 properties out? You can go in there and you can mix and match data, analytics on all of your different real estate investments by asset class, by individual property. You can forecast the future. It also holds all of your important documents inside the cloud. So anytime that, if you want to do taxes, you can just shoot the all the finances to your accountant at the end of the year. If you want to pull your operating agreement, or if you want to pull your settlement statement or your appraisal or your survey or your environmentals, everything gets stored right there inside the cloud. It tracks your contractor work log. So anytime any contractor's done work for you, you can upload their sales contract for your accountant at the end of the year. You can upload their warranties. You can upload all that stuff in one central place. And then the cool part is it just puts everything on one central calendar. So what you can do, if you want to log into your portfolio for the month of September, it'll show you, hey, you have an insurance bill due, you've got property taxes due, you've got due diligence coming up on this property you're under contract on, you've got a closing date on another property. It'll take all the critical dates, as I like to call them in real estate, and just aggregate them in one spot so that you don't have to worry about, oh crap, is that closing next week? Is that financing contingency timeline up? So anyways, it's just, we call it the all-in-one toolkit for real estate investors because it helps you analyze new deals, buy more properties, and manage your existing portfolio in a really cost-effective way. I mean, if you own 2 to 6 properties, it's $49 a month. If you own 6 to 15 properties, it's $99 a month. So super cost effective for anybody. So if it's for every property over your 15th property, it's just $5 a month extra. So if you own 30 properties, I mean, it'd be like $150 a month or something like that. Maybe $200. So yeah, I mean, our mission of that is really to bring, the everyday real estate investor, whether you've got one prop or really if you're just getting in. I mean, we have what I think is the world's best deal analyzer, so you can get in there and you can analyze deals. But if you own, I've got buddies of mine who own $100 million of assets that they don't have a solution like this for, that they could get on it for less than $150 a month. You know what I mean? So.
And by deal analyzer, you mean more or less like back and napkin underwriting?
Oh, it's not back and napkin. This thing makes you look like a pro. So we built it like Google Sheets to where if you put a deal in there, it'll tell you the exact price to pay for any deal to hit your goals. It hosts all your due diligence Dropbox in the same file. So literally as you're uploading, contracts or rent rolls or whatever, you can put them in there. And then when you go to the bank, it works like Google Sheets. So you can just copy the link, share it with your banker, and they'll get this full professional pro forma with all the documents in one central place. So, I built it, so I'm biased, but it's pretty badass.
That's sick. That's awesome. How long did it take you?
I started with the idea, when I was selling those properties, which was 2020, and then we started building in the first part of 2021. Really like May, June. We launched our deal analysis tool in September of 2021, and then we launched our investment manager because it took a while to build in, I want to say April, May of 2022. So that's been out now for 4 or 5 months. The deal analyzer's been out coming up on a year. We're always making it better, but we've got a decent amount of people, several hundred people using it, loving it every day. So, well, the cool and the not so cool part about it is that, as investors, we all kind of have these cool ideas, as kind of more entrepreneurial people. And I get every day, like, it would be so cool if you added this. And I'm like, it would be cool, but it would take me 4 months to build it, and I have 10 other cool things to build at this point, So it's all about kind of delegation. How do you keep people happy on it? How do you prioritize the cool things that you do build?
How do you prioritize those?
Very carefully.
Yeah.
But no.
How much do you pay? How many properties do you have? How much do you pay? How big's your network? All right, yeah, we might prioritize your.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to look at it. But no, man, it's been an interesting journey. I mean, it was never a goal of mine to have a software company, but I just kind of said, I think this is a really good idea. I think the real estate investing world could use it. Everybody else that's going to use this is going to probably aim towards enterprise clients who will pay that $100K a year. So let me see if I can build something that'll serve the everyday kind of people.
Dude, so many people get focused on wanting to build the biggest and best thing. And what I've realized with my, really doing my own thing is there's a lot of meat in the middle. You don't have to be the best and the most known to be successful.
Sure.
Like there's a lot of meat in the middle, and a lot of people enjoy that, right? You don't need to,
Yeah, I mean, I never want to. If anybody from Wall Street's listening to this, I got no problem with you, but I don't want to serve those people. I want to serve the people who show up in t-shirts and, are like, I'm doing this for freedom, man. Like those are my people, the people who, we're not about maximizing profits. We're about maximizing life, so those are the people I love to work with.
Love that. That's awesome. Before we jump to the final five, what does the future hold for you? What does it look like as you move forward?
Yeah, man, just more self-storage, is my primary gig inside of real estate. In the last couple of years, I've really moved into kind of developing properties, which is a whole different ballgame. I mean, you're talking about just so much more intricacy. So if you're new, I would not recommend developing properties, but it's been something that, kind of a challenge that I wanted to learn more about so I could speak about it and, talk more into it. And so I've done that a little bit. Maybe I'll do some more of that, but buying self-storage, growing my self-storage portfolio, focusing on my property stats. I might write a couple other books to help the world out. But other than that, man, yeah, just living life.
I love it. And what do you do? Like, obviously now you've got some freedom, a little bit of time on your hands. What hobbies and things you like to do for fun?
Been traveling a lot. So
Sick.
trying to see all the different continents, and just playing that out. So that's what's awesome about real estate and honestly software is, I can work from anywhere in the world for, 99% of the days.
Connection, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. So been doing a lot of traveling, which is awesome. Yeah, man.
Cool. Well, this has been amazing. Let's jump into the final five here. First question, best advice you got from a mentor?
Do it now.
Sick. Yeah. So simple. I love it. What is it about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
I mean, I give my book away for free. I didn't share this earlier, but when I bought my first property in college with none of my own money, I kind of thought to myself, and the next month I made $3,000 in cash flow. I kind of thought to myself, like, why is everybody not doing this? And at that point in time, I set a goal to myself, which I told my mentor, and he's like, take it easy, but I set a goal for myself of I'm going to help 1,000 people buy their first investment property. And the book that I wrote, which I give it away completely free. It's a bestseller. People buy 25, 30 copies of it off Amazon every day, but I also give away about the same amount every single day. Helping other people. Like every time I get a new review on Amazon and somebody says like, this book changed my life, my insight simplified it. That is my why inside of this is, helping other people make this happen. Favorite non-real estate or investment book? Probably would have to be The Magic of Thinking Big. If you've ever heard of that book, it's a lot about.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's a lot about. I think David Schwartz is the author of that one. But I read that book early in my journey, and my first goal for myself before I read that book was I want to buy one house before I graduate college. And I read that book, and I was like, screw it, I want to be financially free by the time I graduate. And it happened. So there's a magic to thinking big.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Probably fly so I could travel places faster.
Yeah, 1,000%. That's mine too. Plus, it'd be so fun to fly. I'm going to pop out for a quick flight.
Definitely.
Cool. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more?
Pretty active on Instagram, just at Hayden Crabtree, mypropertystats.com. You can hit me up through the little bubble in the bottom right, and I'll probably read it and maybe respond. And those are probably the two best ways. And then if you want to read my book for free, again, I give it away for free, haydencrabtree.com/free book, and you can get it there.
Cool. We'll link that in the show notes. Hayden, this has been amazing. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Johnny.